I'm Megan.
I'm Kate.
This is Cooking with the Bells.
All right.
What are we making?
We're going to make some cherry cola today.
Love a good cherry cola.
Don't know about y'all, but we cannot find flavored cola in our stores right now.
No cherry cola, no vanilla cola, no cherry vanilla cola. It's really sad.
So what I have going over here is just a cup of granulated sugar, a cup of water, and I just brought that to a rolling bowl and got all the sugar dissolved.
Just a simple syrup.
And then now I'm going to add a 1 pound bag, 16 ounces of frozen cherries, just because they're not quite seasoned yet here.
And even if they are, they're a little more on the expensive side. So if you're looking to be thrifty, frozen cherries work just fine.
I'll take that. Thank you. And then now we're just gonna bring my fire back up. And I'm just gonna melt the cherries into the simple syrup.
Disclaimer, we are in the piney woods of East Texas, outside with neighbors. You might hear a chainsaw in the background from cutting trees.
And so I'm just gonna let this simmer for probably about 5-10 minutes. And then once the cherries are kind of soft and defrosted in there, I'm just gonna smush them with my fork just to help get some more of that cherry flavor.
Just muddling them a little bit.
Decided to stop using this word because I'm so bad at muddling. I like it. All right, so our syrup has come back to a boil and the cherries have kind of defrosted. And I've gone through and I've just, like I said, just smushing them with my fork.
It's been about maybe 7 or 8 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, since mine were, I didn't defrost them, so since mine were still frozen, it took a while for it to kind of get back up to a boil.
But if you're using fresh or if you pre-thawed, it's going to take a little less time.
And if you are using fresh, it's important to remember to pit your cherries. You don't want all those seeds in there, which is why I prefer using the frozen. You could also use the cans. I just wouldn't use a ton of the syrup because the syrup's going to be really, really sweet, and it might make this syrup too sweet.
And then you're already using sweetened cola.
Yeah. Which, you can use this with, like, diet or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm personally going to leave my cherries in the syrup because I like having a chunk of cherry or two in my Coke. We're learning. But if you want, you can put a strainer on top and strain out the cherries so you just have a loose syrup. I'm just going to try and make a mini mess. I'm getting real good at this. So now that I have about halfway full, I'm just going to scoop in some cherries.
It's very good.
Be careful. There we go. And the rest of this will go in a second jar for a little birthday gift. All right, now that our blooper cleanup is over, I'm gonna grab our glasses. And we're just gonna start. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Our cans are 12-ounce cans, which will almost completely fit in our small jars that y'all have seen us use, but not completely. Gonna do half and half
because we want to leave a little room for syrup and if we wanted ice.
Yes. Exactly. Plus, we've both already had way too much coffee today, so we probably don't need that much caffeine.
Speak for yourself.
Listen, heart can only take so much. So now I just like to grab, like I said, a couple chunks of cherry and drop them in.
But do what your heart tells you.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, you can 100% strain them out. And then I'm just putting 2 tablespoons of cherry syrup in. We like a strong cherry flavor around here. Here's
And
tablespoon
how
of
beautiful
cherry.
would this be over some vanilla ice cream?
Oh
Just
my
a
gosh,
little
yes.
bit to have like that cherry flavor. You can add a little vanilla and have like a cherry vanilla
So
coat
good.
going as well.
I'm just gonna set this here so it can cool. You know what I need to do? I need to stir like a smart person.
It's a little windy here today. Can't tell.
Windy, and it's a cold wind, so it's actually, while it's a nice temperature outside, it's like chilly. All right, which is why we're not using ice today, actually. Woo!
Cheers.
I've been missing that.
Me too. That was just,
So
it
good.
hit the spot.
So good.
Mm.
All right. So what food are we making today?
Well, since we already were making our cherry syrup, we wanted to go ahead and make a cherry cola pork rib. So we're starting off with some country style pork ribs. We are going to use 3.82 pounds. I'm going to get my gloves on here.
Perfect. And you know I'm always ready to help with the spices.
I appreciate it. You know how I feel about cross-contamination.
Yes. And if you ever buy your, especially like ribs in bulk, where they kind of have exposed little bones and stuff on them, just remember it's a good idea to take them out of their original packaging and wrap them in parchment or something like that, and then put them in a bag and freeze them that way, because otherwise the bones, whenever everything goes in the freezer, can actually cut through the plastic that your most grocery stores wrap them in.
Yes. And also, if you're using ones with bones in, just make sure you're helping your kids if you're eating these. That way, you know, they're not swallowing any bones, chewing on any bones, breaking any teeth on bones. Just in general. So, we have our ribs, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this guy here because you can help me out with the seasonings.
Absolutely.
We're using some paprika, some onion powder, some garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And we're just going to generously season these as she puts that on there.
Probably like
We're
a
gonna
tablespoon and a half.
Yeah,
of
and these
paprika.
are almost 4 pounds of ribs, so yeah. Of course, you can adjust these seasonings to your taste. It's all about personal preference here.
Yeah. I probably did closer to 2 to 3 tablespoons of the garlic, and I'm going to do the same with the onion powder. I'm a little heavy-handed with my powders. And then some
Good old black pepper.
And the black pepper is probably closer to a tablespoon, just because, excuse me, my mom is going to be eating some of these, and as we've said before, she's very sensitive to pepper.
And if you want a little bit of a kick, you could always swap out that black pepper for some cayenne pepper. Or you can, in
red
addition,
chili flakes would be really good as well.
for sure. So,
And I probably did a half tablespoon of salt, but we are using a coarse salt. If you're using regular table salt, you'll probably want a little closer to a tablespoon.
and I'm just going to rub these around, make sure they all get a nice seasoning on them. The ones on the bottom get some of that goodness.
Make sure everybody gets a little piece of love.
Yes. Nobody wants bland food, so.
I always love it when the paprika scent hits me with the smell of the smoke off of our smoker. I don't know what it is about that smell, but I just feel at home as soon as it happens.
Okay, would you mind going ahead and dumping that whole 12-ounce can of cola on those ribs.
Absolutely.
So we're using just a 10-full pan, and we're gonna pour that whole can of cola in there. It's gonna cook in the cola and with the cherries on our smoker, and then eventually we'll take them out after they've already been kind of, boiling in that cola to where they'll fully cook and get some more of that smoke hit. But if you wouldn't mind giving us a little of our cherry syrup, you don't have to use the cherry. We just think it adds something a little extra. So we're just gonna use maybe 1/4 of a cup. We're gonna really get those actual cherries in here and not just the syrup, because we like the cherry flavor. As we've said before, we like a strong cherry flavor. You don't have to use it though.
Okay, and then most of those didn't have a lot of syrup, so I'm just gonna put a couple spoonfuls of syrup in there. There we go.
And I'm just gonna make sure that everybody gets a little cherry in here. So I'm gonna push some to the bottom as well.
And the cherries being in the cola, they'll kind of stew and steep in it just like they did in our syrup. So that's why we like adding the cherries, is they help reinforce the flavor over the period of cooking where it's in the sauce.
So I'm just gonna remove my gloves here real quick. Just cross-contamination and safety. So we have our smoker going. It's heating up to about 200 right now. We'll probably try to get the temp up a little bit more, but it is a windy day. So we're just going to keep a really close eye on them. Yes. With these, normally, of course, if you watch any of our other episodes, we're constantly every 30 minutes spraying them down with apple juice or something. But since they're already in the cola, we don't really have to worry about them too much, but we're just going to peek in every now and then and check on them.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when they're almost done, we're going to go ahead and pull them out. Sorry, pull them out and put them directly on our grill pan in there so that, they're not overly moist and soggy.
Get them that good smoker, get a char on them from the hot plate.
Exactly.
But we'll bring you along for that part when we get there.
So you'll just set that in there for me.
And not spill it. There we go.
Alright.
And would you say, since it's going to take it a little bit to get that cola that we just put in there up, plus the windy day, probably about 3 hours we're going to try and get our smoker up to 250 and keep it there. So probably about 3 hours, and then we'll be pulling them onto the rack out of the cola.
But always check your temperature with a thermometer to actually get in there and make sure that it's cooked all the way, because safety is important. Nobody wants food poisoning.
Yeah, so we'll see you in probably about 3 hours.
Bye. And we're back.
So it's probably been about 2 hours. We've managed to keep our smoker at an average of 250. We've had hot peaks at 275 and low points at 225. And that's a windy day. It is. But so we're just going to pull the ribs off of the smoker and then pull them out of their sauce and put them back on. So we thought we'd bring you along for the ride.
Alright, Kate is going to transfer this very carefully to right here.
Yup. And then I'm going to step out of your way.
Thanks. I'm going to pull them out and put them on my grill pan, just so we're getting them out of this moisture. That way we can get some color on this bottom side. And there are some cherries going to come probably with it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Extra.
It'll give us that good color, and it'll help us get a decent smoke ring on the ribs by pulling them out of the liquid. But doing the first couple of hours in the liquid is going to keep them much more tender, and it's going to keep them from being nearly as dry without us every 30 minutes having to come in and spray them down, which will be nice and helpful.
And using that Coke with the cherry, it just adds a little extra flavor.
Yes. And like always, if you don't have a smoker or you don't feel like dealing with your smoker, you can always do this exact recipe in the oven. Your timing might change if you keep your oven a little hotter. I'd recommend putting it on 250, 275 to stay with our timing. But you can always crank it up to 350 and everything will just cook a little faster. So just be aware of that.
Move some things around so we have room for my last one here.
And then we've already topped off our little pan that we leave in our smoker with water, so it'll be nice and steamy to help keep these moist through the rest of the cooking process. Yeah, and then I'll just be checking in every 30 minutes to make sure we're keeping temperature and adding wood and charcoal as needed.
That's right. I'm just gonna throw some more cherries on it. It'll add, it'll be nice and smoky and delicious. Except that one. Except that one. Anyway, yeah, thanks for stopping by.
We'll probably take another 2-ish hours.
Yeah, but we'll of course temp them, and that way they don't get overcooked.
And we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Great. And we're back. It's been about 2 hours since we pulled them out of our full pan and put them onto the actual smoker pan so that they got good color. We've been fighting the wind a little bit today, so definitely temp your ribs because it might take yours less time. It's just we've been struggling. I know ours doesn't look like it now, but it was.
The wind finally calmed down, but our smoker ended up the last 2 hours averaging out at about 225 once we pulled them out of the brine. So, and then it took about 2 hours for them to finish up from there.
So it was a little struggle, but we're here. They look
great.
Yeah,
I mean,
they smell great.
Look at this. Like, you can see that smoke kiss just on it, and I'm just so excited.
Oh, me too.
As you can see, we stacked the small ones on top. I bet you can guess why. Are we ready?
Let's eat.
Let's do it.
I am ready for this.
Just gonna kind of tear a piece off.
Ribs are definitely finger food, right?
You see there's like a good little smoke ring in here too. These are so good, and they're so, like, juicy. And they're fairly tender from being cooked in the liquid for the first bit.
And you have that little hint of sweetness from that cola and that cherry.
Without it being overpowering. Like, it's just kind of there in the back of your tongue.
And the fact that we rip this apart to share shows you how tender it is. I mean, really, look at that.
I think our small ones didn't actually have bones in them like they claim. But that's okay.
Delicious.
So good.
Well, I think that's it for today.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like always, if you like this video, if you maybe learned something in this video with us today, or if we just made you laugh, we really appreciate.
We spilled cherry syrup all over.
Yeah.
It happens.
If you'd hit the like button on this video, we'd really appreciate it a lot. It helps us out a ton.
And if you want to see more from us, go ahead and hit subscribe as well. But if you're already a subscriber, we just want to say thank you so much for supporting us. Thanks for being here. And if you want this recipe or the recipe for our cherry colas, those recipes will be linked below. It'll take you directly to our website where you can print them off.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. They're really good.